What if you were to get 2 to 4% plus on average of your credit card processing fees and pass those fees onto your customers without any surprises and increase your profits immediately, keep 100% of your sales revenue, and overall increase your bottom line, have more cash on hand, liquidity, reserves for emergency needs, to grow and expand, and so much more, and in any business? And what if you were able to get a simple process and leading industry expert and experts to help you convert your current equipment over or get new plug and play equipment to start saving money right away? If you didn't have to change your current processing and processors because of your marketing model also on top of that, then we could just add, reprogram, add to what you existingly have and get going with the number one model that you likely haven't heard of. And if you have heard of this, you'll go, ah, now I know more, or this is a refresher. And so there are four models, one of which is the most recommended that'll keep your customers happy, continuing to consume even more, where you don't even have to absorb any of the fees. Instead, you pass these fees on to your customers, and this is all legal. And before I reveal what that number one model is, my name is Michael Granados, and I've built out multiple high-level businesses in the digital marketing agency, lead generation space, health affiliate marketing niche, health niche in general, online business of helping people online with CRMs, tools, things like that. The finance space now, I've been doing this for many years as a funding expert, as a business loan broker expert, and as a pre-underwriter slash underwriter, helping people with credit, cash flow, collateral, liquidity, equity, and then some. I do business and consumer services, as you see here today, with merchant processing, payment processing is the goal and the best way to do this. And I have more out there with other ventures. So I help people with credit, cash flow, collateral, liquidity, equity, and then some business and consumer services and so forth. I am people over profits. I really am. I'm an introverted person, very analytical, cerebral, more meticulous and calculated, very ethical in what I do. I'm not much of a talker. I'm not one for words. But what I tell people is I've just learned the unlimited for life income skills, the higher income skills that I wish for people to have. And starting and running a business, maintaining it consistently is a whole nother thing. Going out of business is a whole nother animal and another story. And then in between that is absorbing these fees where these consumers of yours, new consumers, existing consumers, and as much sales, as much revenue as you do in a month, it'll depend on how much credit card processing, how much can be saved, how much can be added every single month, because it makes a significant difference, especially if you have multiple businesses and multiple locations and you're looking at it from a savings point of view and you go, I can no longer keep doing it this way. It's one thing to absorb the fees and continue doing it because it adds up and not having extra reserves. And in times like this, having reserves is everything. Like 6 months is one thing, but even more now is 12 months out in advance. You got to have emergency funds. So it's very important to have that. And it can be eating it into your profits with all the credit card processing, debit cards, non-cash payments and all of this. So again, I am people over profits. Integrity and loyalty means everything to me. My values, my vision, my mission, my morals, my ethics, my cause, my why, who I am, my being. And I'm very loyal. I'm very trustworthy, humble, reliable, accountable, responsible. I've just worked on myself, personal growth and development, and I have an academic background as well. I started in sociology, played Division One soccer, and then I quickly went into chemical engineering. I'm just very math and system brained. And so I did that for some time and I had to make a big decision. I wanted to start a business. So eventually I got into the business side and got my degree through there. I've worked in construction, manufacturing, warehouse, once a ramp agent, courier role, financial logistics for a huge contracting company, servicing HP&P South. And there's a transition, 50 plus people were relieved down under. Unfortunately, I have to go back on unemployment benefits and food stamp cards. It was one of the hardest times, if not the hardest time in my life. Just going to the grocery store to pay with my EBT card, not able to look the person in the eyes, and hoping nobody would be in front and behind me. Felt so embarrassed. walking out of there with my bag, so grateful and thankful. Stress levels lesser, but just knowing I'd have to come back, preparing my mind for it, and then the act of it, the reality of it, just aching and pain. Going out for a family meal to cover 25, 50%, 75, 100% of it, whatever it was, whether I could or couldn't. And when I could, I'm like, I wish I had more savings. And when I didn't, at times I wouldn't speak up. And I'm the oldest brother of two. It's me and my younger brother. And so a lot of pain that went on. And long story short of it, I wanted to start a business and eventually got into that. And I started putting my head down a lot more and working at it. Character and characteristic traits driven. So parts of what I had already mentioned. I look for the right characteristic traits in people. And if you're not quite there yet, it's okay. It's one thing to be there, it's another thing to build up to it and grow as a person and in business. Now, what I'd like to do is take the time to stop this share screen and go over the four models that you can use and the number one recommended way of going that many people are switching to. Many gas stations have already been doing this, keeping your customers happy, increasing your profits month over month, increasing your overall bottom line, having more emergency funds to be able to use for growth and expansion, to just have cash on hand, liquidity, and so much more. And that number one recommended way of doing things is through dual pricing. Dual pricing is a way for your consumers to see two prices upon checkout on your processor, your processors, your machine, your machines. And for example, in your brick and mortar location, or this could also work online, ACH, there's a way to do that. And somebody has their Dorito bag, they have their cool beverage, whatever it is. They walk up to the register on checkout. On your processor is listed two different prices. You have the credit card price, and then you have the cash price. The credit card price obviously will be higher because we're talking about fees and the customer absorbing those fees, while the cash price will be lesser. So it could be a slight difference of about two or so dollars, more or less. So for example, the credit card side you have like 58.25, on the cash you have $56. Not a significant difference. And so with that credit card side of things, the fee will be passed on to the consumer. Very simple, straightforward transaction, very easy, simple for your consumer to look at and decide. Very convenient for them and anybody to use their card. Why? Because we just use our cards more often than cash in many scenarios. We may not have enough cash, or that cash needs to be used for something else, or they just end up using their cash and you don't benefit from it. They might not benefit from it. So we want to find a happy medium. And with the dual pricing, this is the most recommended one, and it saves you a lot and a lot of headaches as well, with then having to have more fees on top of that. Your customers aren't happy. And if you're asking, well, would my customers be happy? Wouldn't I lose customers? It's quite the opposite. Your customers will be happy making these payments. It's very transparent. That's what I love about this. It gives them that right there, very transparent pricing. It's very legal and ethical, and they'll love that. They'll want to keep coming back and making purchases because it's so easy, transparent. And at the end of the day, you're taking care of your business, and they can have that mindfulness of knowing that your business is being taken care of as well. Very simple pricing strategy where the fees get passed on over to the consumer. I can give you so many explanations for dual pricing, excuse me. But again, down below, I'll leave more information for you to get started and see what's best, and then also how to cover other parts. Now, the second way to do this, and this is what a lot of people have heard of, is cash discounting. Very briefly, it's in the name, cash discounting. For your customers that pay with cash, they'll get a cash discount. Very standard, right? And while this can be helpful, you lose out on the credit card, the debit card side of things, and the fees. So, yes, you're helping out your customer. However, you're still losing out because of the fees. And you have to think about how many consumers in a day, in a week, in a month, year over year, how many of them are new, how many of them are returning. Data is very important. And when you start to add up the numbers on, oh, this person keeps coming back and makes high payments. Now I have more fees I need to pay. Now this next person in line, same, the next one more or less, lesser. And you start averaging it all out, it adds up quickly. So while you can help out your customers and keep them happy for those who have cash, you're still losing out a lot on the other side. And the thing is, when you start doing a lot of cash discounting, you have to change the pricing strategy to reflect the high credit card pricing. So now you're having to adjust prices just to accommodate what's on the credit card side of things and that payment and the total pricing to that. And it just becomes a lot chaotic, raising prices, lowering here and there, just try to keep people happy. It's not always about lowering prices. It's about having suitable, high enough prices, being the competitor, being the go-to in your market, and providing people with the most amount of value and goods and what they're getting, and increasing your lifetime gross profit from each person, helping your bottom line overall. And so that's a quick way for me to say cash discounting. It's very well known. It's not my most recommended one. If you had to do that, it's because you maybe have like a marketing model already working, or your machines, your equipment doesn't support dual pricing. Then we just stick with cash discounting until later on. If you're able to then get to dual pricing, then we can look at doing that. So that's one of them. Another one is surcharging. And this is one that I obviously don't recommend at all because of the costs that are endured from the credit card side. So, yes, surcharging passes the fees on over from the credit card over to the consumer. However, when somebody pays with their debit card, that doesn't happen. So, for those who are paying with their debit card, oh, you could be losing it on in a lot, excuse me. So it's one thing that the credit card is there for surcharging. However, you can be losing a lot from the debit card side. And you could be losing a lot of your sales, like 1 to 3% of sales every single month. And a lot of this is going towards the fees, and the debit card side isn't covered. So there's a little bit more to that. And if you couldn't change from that because of your equipment, then that might be something you have to continue to do and look in that direction and improve that until later on you can then get into like dual pricing if possible. Another one, and this will be the last one, it's standard pricing. This is the standard way of doing credit card processing. Many ways I could list this in the name. And this is the one you're likely doing, standardized price processing, where you're already taking on the fees regardless. And so you're taking on average 2 to 4%, depending on the size, depending on the amount of sales and revenue you generate, the pricing, et cetera. It just depends. And so that's not the smartest decision because you start looking at your costs, your expenses. You're like, oh, I can't grow in this other area because of this. Unexpected expenses arise. My insurance premiums went up. My coverage, I had to bring in more employees. I lost sales over here, so I can't continue to lose. And now you don't have enough reserves. So it's like you're passing on everything to yourself. Excuse me, you're bringing in everything. I shouldn't say passing, but you're bringing in everything to yourself. So that's not the most recommended one. And again, to go back to dual pricing, and I'll conclude here, and you can get started down below. This is the most effective way. Your customers stay happy, they're satisfied. You won't lose customers because of this. You'll only retain and get even more customers with the transparent pricing, the right pricing models, the two ways that they can select from. They have a choice to select from. Passing on over the fees to your consumers, most effective for you and your business to stay up afloat. And that keeps people happy, knowing that you can stay in business and continue to push through business and not just living out another day of like, well, I wonder if what'll happen the next day, but persisting and staying consistent and meeting your goals. So that's all I wanted to get into in this video. Go ahead and look down below. And I wanted to do this on screen with you to know how real and authentic I am when it comes to this, and you know there's a real person behind this. So look down below to get more information and get more details, and then go from there. That is all for now. Thank you.